Next section, once we get the eave flashing on, is the valley. We're going to put the valley in next. We use a W valley. And what's important in this situation, because this is just a short roof mock-up, I know that this valley's nice and straight. In a lot of cases, though, you'll run into homes that have valleys that come up and have a jog one way or the other. In that case, what you want to do is you want to straighten it as much as possible by floating it off to one side or another. Even if it's not completely straight, that's okay, but we want to get it as straight as possible. So when I'm laying this valley flashing in, I'm going to want to go right through the top miter point in the substrate, slide it all the way up, and then I'm going to look from the bottom side, and I'm going to make sure this point is lined up with my miter in my eave flashing. So in this case it is. Put pressure on here, and I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to scribe the underneath side of this valley along the eave flashing. I'll take this to the bench and I'll make my cuts. What's important now is to fold a hem on this flashing. Previous installations have just shown a raw cut here, but by leaving that raw cut, you can see the cut marks, and also you're not closing off that valley end. We want to completely close the ends of the panels, the valleys, all the flashings to make sure that we keep birds, bees, other types of insects out. So in this case, I've got my line that I've already transferred from the bottom of the eave flashing. I'll take my square blade, again, which measures 1 inch wide, and I'll put a 1 inch line onto the metal. To make this easy, I'll put a B and a C. B stands for bend, C stands for cut. Do the same thing on the other side. I'll now take my straight snips and make my cuts on my cut lines. Come over to the other side, get it started, switch over to the top, make my cut. And then I'll finish it off with the aviations. Anytime you're going to be folding metal over, it's always a good idea to put a little notch there, and that'll help to get that fold started. Again, notch for the fold, and I'll notch back to the line. Now, I'm just going to use the hand folds in this case. If I had a flat surface, I may use a different type of folder, but in this case, I'll just use the hand folds. When using these, you want to give it support with your hand and just go little by little with the bend. If I do one large turnover, I'm just going to create large creases in this metal. So I'll go little by little, back and forth, and again, I'm using my fingers as a backer to help that metal fold its way over. To close my hem now, I'll use my square blade and a piece of cardboard. Place the square blade inside of the hem, put the cardboard over the top, and use my hand folds to squeeze it together. I don't want to use a lot of pressure. I just basically want to roll it right over. One side and the other. It's very important that anytime you close a hem on a valley flashing, or I close a hem on a panel, that I do use cardboard. If I don't, what will happen is, where this closes on the metal, on the face, you'll get a crease on each end of this pair of hand folds, and we don't want that to be seen after the metal's installed. So I've got my hems ready, I've got an opening, I'm going to now install it. To install this piece, just place it in the valley, and I'm going to lock my hems over the extended eve edge. I'll know this is in place correctly when my two ends are closed and it pushes right up. I'll then check my angle, and it is at the proper angle. Once I have that in the proper place, I'm going to put 2 screws in the metal to hold it. And I want to put the screws right on the outside edge here. One on one side, one on the other. I'm now going to close this end off. This is a large W valley, and what I don't want, again, a bird could easily come up inside of this roof, bees, any type of insect, so I want to close that off. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pick a point at which I want to fold these tabs over. I can come across to where a 90-degree angle is. If I drive this all the way up and to the point, these points will connect right here at the top of that W valley. I'll take a pair of snips and I'll make a cut along the top all the way up to that mark. Now at this point, I'm just going to fold these together to a point. I want to now draw a line from this eave to this eave in the same plane. So I'll come for this corner, place a mark, come across to this point, place a mark, and just basically scribe a line. And then I'll add a 1-inch tab down below. Make this cut. Now I'll take my hand folds and I will fold that under. I'll then bring the other side down and basically figure out where all these points, any place the metal comes together, that's my point. That's what I'm going to use. Add a 1-inch tab and make that cut. And again, I could leave it looking like this. However, more professional appearance, you'll want a straight line right down through this valley. So I'll draw a straight line and I'll cut that right out. So that my finished appearance is a nice tight closed end. Again, keeping animals out and looks very aesthetically appealing. My next step, once I have my valley flashing installed, if this was an exposed fastened panel, at this point we'd cut our panels in and we'd install them into the valley. However, this is a concealed fastener system, and what we're going to put in on each side of the valley is an offset cleat. Offset cleat measures 1 inch, steps up, and then 1.5 out. And there's an offset so that when it sets down on a flat surface, it comes up so that there's a small space that you can attach the panel. So this offset cleat measures 3 inches wide. What I recommend is measuring from the inside part of the W valley and measuring out to a point 5 inches away. We want 5 inches of reveal here in the valley. The easiest way to do this is to take the 5 inches plus the 3 inches, which is a total of 8 inches, place a mark on the valley, down low, up high, making sure that your tape or your measurement is 90 degrees off of the W valley, 8 inches. And then I'll just draw a line, connect those marks. It's very important that you measure not every 10 feet, but from the very bottom of the valley all the way to the top of the valley. As I mentioned before, you may have a valley which is not completely straight, and you may have to put a slight dog leg in that valley. That's fine for the valley flashing itself. However, this offset cleat must be in a consistently straight line from eave all the way to the high side. That'll allow each panel in the valley to have the same skew measurement on it. So once I have the lines on both sides, 8 inches out on the back side, I'm then going to take double bead butyl tape and attach it to the back side of my flashing. This is double bead butyl tape. It's easily seen. It has 2 beads, double bead. It's much thicker than single bead, thicker and wider also. Why it's important to use double bead butyl tape. Number one, you want a seal of this butyl between the 2 pieces of metal. In this case, the metal valley and the metal offset cleat. If we use a single bead butyl tape, the chances of there being no gaps in between the 2 pieces of metal would be very slim. Also, we want to put our fasteners directly through that butyl tape. Single bead is much too narrow to allow for that, so double bead is the way to go. So once I have my flashing cut, again my offset cleat, I know how it's going to be installed. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to run butyl tape along the back side, along the attachment. All the way to the end, and then I'll just simply press it in. Make sure to peel the backer before you install. And again, back line or back edge is right on your line. I'll put 1 screw down low, press the metal up, put 1 screw at the very high side also. When installing screws in the offset cleat, space fasteners every 6 inches or closer if necessary. What is very important is that the butyl tape underneath the flashing is compressing the 2 flashings together so that any water that runs down the valley cannot back up and enter the roof system. At this point, once I have the eave flashing in, the valley flashing, my offset cleats, I'm going to take double bead butyl tape and I'm going to put it along the top edge of my eave flashing. That's going to prevent any water from backing up, whether it be an ice dam or any type of driven rain that could enter the ends of the panels. This will prevent it from going up the roof. So I'm going to place it right below the screws. All the way around the roof. That butyl tape creates a seal again from the elements.